Well, hello once again to another episode of the Righteous Leadership Podcast. I am so delighted to introduce to our listening audience today my new friend, Roy Lewis. May I say Sergeant Roy Lewis. Roy and I met at a conference in North Carolina a couple weeks ago, and I just could not wait, Roy, to get you on our podcast. So, Roy, just introduce yourself to our listening audience and just share whatever that comes to mind to our listening audience.
Thank you, Dr. Ray. Well, greetings, folks. My name is Sergeant Roy, and I am a public speaker. I speak on the topic of intentional leadership, and I'm so glad here. You're correct, Dr. Ray. We met at a conference, and it was great. We have a common thread that we share together. It was great to. I heard him speak, and he inspired me, and I'm just so glad to be here today. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I give you a brief snapshot of our theme, which is righteous leadership. But in your own words, Roy, when you hear the term righteous leadership, what comes to mind for you?
That's a great question. The term righteous leadership. Well, first of all, when you use the term righteous, you have to define that term. Where righteousness has to have a source that it comes from. And for us, our source has a name, and that's the name Jesus. You know, because he's the author and finisher of everything. He defines the terms. He defines what's right, what's left, what's up, what's down. So when you say righteous leadership, sometimes in the worldly sense, they can take that and interpret it many, many different ways.
Yes.
But for us believers, our righteousness comes from one absolute, and I use the word very clearly, absolute source, and that's the source, Jesus Christ. And when he is the source of that righteousness, then that leadership comes from that. Then you get the benefits of that righteousness. It filters into leadership. And when that righteousness filters into the leadership, all the leadership values and stuff, they carry a lot of benefits with that type of leadership. You can trust that leadership is trustworthy. You can trust that it's uncorrupted. You can trust that it's dependable and reliable. And here's a very, very interesting point, that it's also it will not change on the circumstances. It will not. It's like relative reality. Real quick, it's just, if you base it on a relative premise, then that means that what's good for you is good for you, and what's good for me is good for me. But on righteous leadership, it's heavily grounded in righteousness, which is that righteousness that comes through Christ. So that is a really good thing, and I prefer to be under righteous leadership. This is what this country needs, and the whole world needs, is righteous leadership.
Roy, you just dropped a bomb. You dropped several bombs, but the major one, did you say relative reality? Unpack that a little more for our audience. What do you mean when you say relative reality?
Oh, wow. I mean, really, relative reality, this is kind of really what we're under now. Relative reality is just like, what is everybody's worldview? What is it? What makes life sense to you? And when it's relative, what that basically means that it's up to interpretation. Person, it can be based on a person's belief system. It can be based on someone's individually. And this is where we are today. People are confused because people they want, there's four basic needs. People want to know four basic things, and this is what relative reality does not deliver. People want to know origin. Where did I come from? They want to know destiny. What happens when I die? They want to know, truth. They want to know what's right or wrong. And then they want to know, why am I here? Those four basic needs. And reality has to answer those questions. If it's relative and it does, and it's all over the place, people get confused, people get depressed, people get discouraged.
Mm.
But when you base it on a absolute truth, which means, in contrast to that, absolute means it will not change. It is the same today, yesterday, and forever. Does that sound like someone? That sounds like Jesus.
Yes. Yeah.
And the thing that cracks me up about people say they don't understand the divinity of God, of righteousness, is that if God says something, whether it be 2,000 years ago or 2 days ago or 2 minutes ago, it is still relevant now and now. So when Jesus says something, he could have said something 5, 10,000 years ago. God's word is so absolute that it's still true to today. It doesn't expire. Whereas if you and I, if we say something a month ago, we're old guys. We'll probably forget about it. We don't even remember it.
Yeah.
But the absolute, and when people live their lives on absolutes, what happens? The benefit of that is that they're secure.
Yeah.
They feel safe.
Yeah.
They feel significant. They feel like life makes sense to them. So that's what the gospel is all about. It's not a gospel that changes with changing times or different people or situations. It's absolute. It is true for you and me, doctor, sitting here on this call, as well as it is for the guy that's in China, or the guy that's in Africa, or the guy that's in Europe. It's the same. It doesn't change.
Wow.
So that's the thing. So when you base leadership on those values, you can trust and be reassured that those values are not going to change on you. They're not going to flip on you. They're not going to change just because your economic situation changed, or you're from a different class of people, or whatever. Yeah. So I like righteous leadership. I feel more comfortable. I feel more safe in righteous leadership. That's based on absolute truth as compared to relative truth that can change. And this is what we see in our government today, where we're in chaos right now. I mean, we're seeing leaders right now. I have to be honest with you, doctor. I'm like, where are the leaders? Where are the righteous leaders? I don't see any. Leaders are standing up, nowadays, and I don't mean to scare people. People are stepping up. Leaders are coming to the podium, and it doesn't even have to be true. They're saying things, it doesn't even have to be true.
Wow.
That's the scary part.
I love those 4 elements. You said, what is my origin? What is my destiny? What is my truth? And what was the 4th one, Roy?
They want to know origin. Oh, I'm sorry, meaning. What's the meaning of life?
Yeah. So you also talked about the centrality of Jesus. You also talked about him being the source. So that was your initial response when you hear the word righteous leadership. What comes to mind? You talked about him. You talked about the righteous one. That's one of his names. Is that him being the source, him being the center? Well, listen. You've covered him in all 4 elements. He's the author and the finisher, right? So that takes care of 2 of the 4, right? He also says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. So that takes care of truth, right? So I love the central theme of Jesus. And I'm not going to say God, I'm going to say Jesus. When you hear the word righteous leadership, what comes to mind? And if I were to assimilate everything that you said, I would put it under the centrality of Christ.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, it will change. I mean, righteous, again, the terminology, when you've asked me righteousness, and you have to ask the questions, righteousness, whose righteousness? Where's this righteousness come from? And that's a big question. And I don't think people ask those type of questions. They make the assumption that it's because righteousness is kind of a Christian word.
Yeah.
However, it can be confused. It can be lost in translation.
Yeah.
It can be lost in translation. So when you know that your righteousness is grounded in Christ,
Yeah.
There's no argument. There's no debate.
Yeah. And when you know that it's you, I love what you, Roy, I love what you just said. It's what again, here I go again, assimilating what you said. That's, I have a habit of doing that,
That's
taking
okay.
lots of words and put it into its most common denominator. What I heard you say is that it's not a trait. It's not a trait. Righteousness is not a trait. Righteousness is a person.
It's a person.
And his name is Jesus. Am I hearing you correctly?
That's correct. That's right. Our righteousness has a name.
Yeah.
It's not a thing. It's not a concept. It's not an idea. It's an actual person.
It's not a mindset.
It's not a mindset. It's not a formula that we formulate and we write up on our PowerPoint slides and stuff. It's a person.
Okay. So let's talk about that person, because this is one of the main reasons I wanted you as a guest on our show. And that person, I believe, because one of the key thing you talk about is intentional leadership. I believe that this person demonstrated intentional leadership. I think
absolutely.
I think of the woman at the well. I think of, the fact that he related to each one of his disciples differently. Talk to me and actually talk to us, our listening audience, how the element of intentional leadership works so symbiotically with righteous leadership. It just seems as it's almost like hand in glove. Talk to me about that.
Jesus is one of my main role models for leadership, because first of all, his act on the cross is the greatest form of courage I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anything equal that. I've never seen any man or any person equal that type of courage in my life, and I'm still blown away by that. I'm blown away by Jesus able, when he was here and he was teaching. I would have loved to, Doctor, I would love to have been a fly on the wall when he's telling his disciples. They never heard of the gospel. You got to remember, this is in the time of Roman occupation. These are the times when the Sadducees, very religious environment. And he's telling his disciples, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. If someone wants your shirt, give them your jacket. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to see the look on their face, because they're thinking the opposite.
Right.
If you take my stuff, I'm not gonna let you steal from me. I'm not gonna, that's our national inclination. And he's telling them, and he's a leader. He's washing their feet. He's serving, like you said earlier, servant. He's serving the people that are serving him or that's under his leadership. He's shown, and that's the type of leader that just, that blows me away. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. And he would, because Jesus was intentional. Those are expressions of a person being intentional about their leadership, not lip service. He was leading by example. So he led by example on to forgive, to give, to share, to serve, and he opened up. He knocked it out the water. And that's why people don't. You need to, when people read the Bible, go to the New Testament and don't look at the things Jesus said. Look at how people responded to what he said, to what he did.
Right.
That was what blew people out of the water, because that's why you have Peter, and he's telling Peter, I'm going to wash your feet. And Peter goes, oh, no, you're not going to wash my feet, because I should be washing your feet. But he says, no, if you don't let me wash your feet, you can't have any part of my kingdom. Wow.
But Roy, I want to press pause there for a second, because I want to wrap this up where we're going to talk about righteous leadership and intentional leadership as it relates to tour of duty in the military, but I'm gonna get to that in a second. What I want us to park for a minute is on the word intentional. You and I both know that's the new buzzword. Everyone is talking about intentionality. I'm talking about Christians, non-Christians, agnostic, that's just a new buzzword. When you apply intentional leadership to the righteous one, what separates that form of leadership from what we hear in the modern day, it's yeah. What did you say?
You said, and what they say in the world, in the system.
Yeah, exactly. In the even in the corporate lingo, right?
Yeah.
And I want to be respectful. I was hesitating on being specific, so I want to be very brief, very broad, because we serve a very broad audience.
Right. No, doctor, that is a great question, because I'm just now finishing up a career in the corporate world. I just finished 36 years with the military, and I'm finishing up serving in the corporate world. I work in the banking industry, and that's a great question. What's the difference? You're right. You hear these words, and for the most part, that's exactly what they are. They're just words. But I realized as a leader through my experiences and again, the people that affected me personally, that made me the leader that I am. I hold the rank of sergeant major. That's the highest rank for an enlisted person to have. Only 4% of enlisted guys ever make that rank. How does that happen? I'm an author. I'm a minister. I'm a leader in every part of my life. How does that happen? Well, it didn't happen with just words. It's not about positive thinking. Intentional leadership is a difference, because if you're going to use that word, intentional leadership produces fruit. It produces fruit. If you're going to be intentional, you just cannot say it in word. It produces things in deed. In other words, like, one of the things for an intentional leadership is to, when they're leading people, is to coach, train, and mentor the people that they're leading. An intentional leader will sit back here and will lead their folks to have integrity. They also have intentionality, to be able the values that they need to have, that the people will have the same values of that leader.
Yeah.
Also, too, there's a built-in discipleship process there where leaders produce other leaders. They're not just, leaders are just not just, oh, I'm a leader because you say you are a leader.
Yeah.
But you are a leader because you are aspiring. The people you're leading, you're coaching them. You're making sure they're properly trained. You're mentoring them, because people that are leading you, that you're leading, they have issues. We all have issues. But to be able, the best leaders that have led me before have always been there, and they were always engaged to see how I was mentally, physically, spiritually, in some cases, coach, train, and mentor. They were, when the times when I failed, they pushed me. They didn't let me feel sorry for myself. They wouldn't let me quit. They would ask me questions, thought-provoking questions, like, what did you learn from this, your failure? What could you have done to be better? What could you have done to grow from this experience? They would ask me questions like that. So I couldn't help but grow.
Yeah. I'm hearing it loud and clear. I'm so glad that we press pause to spend a little extra time on that word, intentional leadership. And here's what I just heard. One can use that word intentionality, and it could have a focus on self. I can be very intentional in obtaining my agenda.
Absolutely.
I can be very intentional in my drive. Or I can be well, I don't want to say or, because I don't want to come across too binary, because it could be both and. But And I can also be intentional in leaving a legacy, leaving a lasting impact, having a generational impact. That's what I heard you say in terms of intentional leadership with a righteous leadership underpinning. Did I hear you correctly?
That's correct. And that's the model that Jesus left for us.
That's
Because
exactly.
you got to remember, the gospel started with just 12 guys,
That's right.
and it changed the whole entire world.
Mm.
So it was like, and that's what Jesus, he kind of left that model for us.
Wow.
To go, and 12 became 50, 50 became 100 became the thousands and thousands and billions.
Mm.
And the gospel, here's another thing, doctor, the gospel was never meant to be automated. It was never meant to be computerized.
Wow.
It's one heart at a time, one intentional leader at a time.
Mm.
So the interaction that we're having right now, I'm getting blessed by this interaction.
Mm.
And what am I going to do? I'm going to have a natural inclination to go share it with another person.
Yes.
Who will share it with another person.
Yes.
And another person and another person. And that's all because you intentional. You talk, and it ties into what you said, righteous leadership.
Yeah.
And those who try to go around the corner and cheat, they can't produce, they're counterfeits. They can't produce the same results. They try to, but they can't.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm hearing, Roy, is in the world system. Let's just call it.
It's a good word.
In the world system, we are led to look at like Maslow's hierarchy of need. In Maslow's hierarchy of need, the highest point, the apex, is self-actualization. But in righteous leadership, we are only changed through the power of God. It is the divine power of God that enables us to change. Self-actualization is like, I'm putting the power, it's in my hand, and I am able to turn it on, turn it off whenever I feel because of all the knowledge that I receive. And I can be intentional in the knowledge that I receive to make the shift, to make the change. We even use the fancy word today, to make the pivot. I can pivot whenever I feel, wherever I feel, but not as it relates to righteous leadership.
Yeah.
Because righteous leadership, the pivot only occurs by being renewed in the spirit of our mind.
Yeah, and that takes a death. That takes a death. You have to die to self. And there's no way. I mean, I look at the people that were like Michael Jackson and all these people that have all the wealth and the fame, and it's scary because man was never created to be like that. Man was never meant to lead like that. But if you look at our leaders like David and Moses, and when they died to themselves and they were usable. And that's what my prayer is. I'm like, Lord, I want to be a leader, but I want to be usable. And the only way I can be usable is I die to my selfishness. You know, because I can't see righteousness. If it's all about you, you can't see righteousness. You'll never see it.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't die to that self, I mean, you're not really fit for the task. Because leadership there was a time I used to run away from it. I didn't want any part of it. That's something that other people do that. But God causes, I love his style. He uses, and I might be speaking to somebody out there, he uses broken things. He uses broken people. He uses people, and the only common thread is that if you're willing to be obedient to his righteousness, you got it made. Too easy.
Wow. Roy, this is definitely part one of several times you coming on this podcast. But let's land this jet. If you were to leave a parting word to an emergent leader, can you speak into, because we do have quite a high percentage of emergent leaders. I'm talking about early to mid 20s to late 30s, on the amalgamation of righteous leadership and intentional leadership. If you were to leave a parting word to that demographic, can you just speak into that demographic, and we can wrap up with that? What would you say to that demographic, that emerging leader that haven't plateaued yet? Correct.
That's a great question, Doctor. One of the things I would say to an up-and-coming leaders is to find a mentor. And find a mentor, a person who is, if you can find someone that leads the way you want to lead, that's leading, that's doing righteous leadership, that's doing intentional leadership, find that mentor, and build a relationship with that mentor. However, be ready to let some things go. You gotta let that person speak into your life. Let that person, and like I said, I used that example earlier in this conversation about Jesus with his disciples. Peter is always recorded as being the one that's always talking a lot and just really mouthing off, but I can imagine all the other ones did as well. They didn't record it, but they said Jesus, he stepped on a couple of toes. But however, the best thing you could say about those disciples, they listened to him. They let him speak into their lives, and they were teachable. Second of all, become teachable.
Yes.
Become teachable. If you're not teachable, then you're going to have a hard time as a leader. You're not going to hear anything but your own voice. First of all, find a mentor, be teachable. And then also, apply the things that you're learning, because this is going to be some things that are different. God's going to ask you to do some things that are hard, some things that are different, but it's for growth. It's always for growth. Because if you're not growing as a leader, there's something wrong. And you say, well, Sergeant Roy, how do you know that I'm growing? It's because that as you're growing as a leader, you're producing new leaders. You got to be, it's a reproduction process. Like I said, the gospel was never meant to be automated. The gospel was never meant to be an email or a voicemail or whatever. It's one heart at a time. That's what I'm doing here with Dr. Ray. I'm sitting here, and in some way, he's like my mentor. I'm taking in what he's saying. He's not my boss, but I'm taking in and imbibing his knowledge, taking it in, trying to understand, because he's walked roads that I have yet to walk. So to recap, like I said, is to find a mentor, to be teachable, and then be able to be accountable for what you've learned.
Yeah, I love it. And I love acronyms, and as I listen to you, the acronym MTA, find a mentor, M, be teachable, T, and be accountable, and apply. Roy, thank you so much. I always end my podcast by giving the mic to my guests to speak to the audience if there's any book recommendation, because listen, we just got 35 minutes of you, and I know that represents 35 plus years that you bottle in 35 minutes. But is there any book that sort of underpins all that you have shared? If you can identify one resource, what would that be for a listening audience?
Well, I have yet to write it. I am an author. I'm an author of a book called Broken Things, which is a book on how to overcome brokenness. But however, intentional leadership is, I would just say, the Word of God. The Word of God. It's just to sit there and start right there.
You can
and start with the Word of God and just kind of read how Jesus. You see the things that Jesus is doing, but look at the responses of when he does something and he's teaching. Look at how people respond. to his leadership. And I think there's a lot to glean from that. There's a lot to understand from that, to start right there. Uh, I know, Doctor, you may have some books that you might offer your audience or whatever, but I haven't written any books yet. And I say yet with the and in parentheses. But that's where I look right now. I draw a lot of my understanding of leadership, and I base that on that format.
Yeah. No, I've been fed a buffet. I mean, I am so full right now, Roy, just listening to you. My head is spinning, and it's spinning because there are so much insight that has come from this podcast. I'm going to have to listen to this at least 5 times just to glean the fullness of everything that was shared. Roy, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to having you on again. You've been listening to the Righteous Leadership Podcast. Oh, what a rich, rich episode. If you have been fed like I have fed, please share it. Send your friends to Apple Podcasts, and they can just simply look for Righteous Leadership. They can go on Google Podcasts, just look up Righteous Leadership, or they can simply, just download the app. The app is A Ray of Light, ARAYOFLIGHT, and just click on the podcast link. You will get all of our past episodes. Until we meet again on another episode of the Righteous Leadership Podcast. See you next time. Take care and God bless.